Hello. So, in this video, I'm going to attempt to briefly summarize an article that took me 3 hours to read and a century to dissect, thanks to my brain's incompetence, or because the author decided to swallow a dictionary before writing this piece. Anyway, it's a review titled Canon Fodder, authoring Eugene Atget, and it's written by Abigail Solomon Godot. Here's the MLA citation because academia. And if you're wondering what Canon Fodder is, like any normal human being would, according to the Merriam-Webster website, it's either soldiers regarded or treated as expendable in battle, or an expendable or exploitable person, group, or thing. AKA, the author's kinda hinting that Atget is a low-key lab rat, I assume. Atget is a great example of how authors are constructed or canonized, as in made official, great, the rule, the standard, and role model in their field, and how discourse defines its own object. So Atget was technically like, the chosen one.
But I am the chosen one.
Now wait, who was behind the production of this cool Atget persona anyway, you may ask? We got these two people, Bernice Abbott, American photographer who published most of his work after his death, and John Skowski, another American photographer, an important VIP person in the museum world who has some connections and stuff. They were really like the overly proud parents of Atget, you know, when some parents discover some decent painting of their child and start advertising them as the new pioneers of their field. Yeah, that sort of thing. So this Miss Abbott was kind of sort of the person who made Atget a big deal and established his authorship, but many think that her stance was kind of ignorant in the realm of photography as a profession and assume that she had likely chosen Atget and placed him in that category as a validating and authorizing origin for the kind of photographic work she wanted to do. And more on that, apparently, Miss Abbott wasn't so consistent with her arguments for Atget because she once mentioned how he never took pictures on assignment, yet had a wide range of clientele, meaning that he had to kinda go to the demand of the photographic marketplace. So how the heck was Atget considered to be so wondrous and imaginative and, like, had a sense of singularity in his work when he was doing what every other photographer was doing at his time? Also, cherry on top, Abbott bought a crap ton of Atget's work, which was basically an integral part of him developing his canonical status. So, I'm smelling something sus here. And for Mr. John's Mike Wazowski here, who was also a creator of super high status, so, you know, connect the dots, darlings. The man really came through and just said that the Atget books were the most important contribution today to the record and the interpretation of the art of photography, which basically made Solomon Godot, the author of this article again, interrogate such a bold claim and deem it as more than modest. Yeah, girly was not having it, to say the least. So we can say that Wazowski here also played a big role in Atget's authorship. So to put it in simple terms, our friend Atget's fame was a product of some highly opinionated people hyping up his work at the right place at the right time. Abigail claims that in Atget's case, cultural production is organized, described, and finally perceived to conform to the needs, myths, and desires of those individuals and institutions empowered to define how cultural production will be understood. Essentially, there was some bias, like in almost everything, unsurprisingly. And we know that because obviously critics came after and they were like, whoa, what makes you qualified to decide what great photography is? Let's take a step back. So then came Rosalind Cross, one of the critics. She popped up and she called out all that BS, phrasing it as relentless ahistoricism, which for us illiterate folks means something like, ayo bro, your argument is so weak and lacking in historical integrity, blah blah blah, try again. And she said something like epistemological improperty, which is basically a very fancy way of saying, you've got false knowledge, you nincompoop. And she did so because she wasn't buying the whole genius artist thing, and because out of the tens of thousands of the photographs we've got of Atget's, approximately 20% would fall under the category of fine arts. I mean, he had some cute aesthetics. Look at this, bro. Also, many critics think the lad had no idea what he was doing, which is kind of harsh, but they really were trying to make Atget something that he was not. That is the claim. That is the thing. That is the juice of the article. And while reading this article, there's this one sentence that really came to me that I feel pretty much concludes this whole stuff thing situation. I'm assuming it's important because it sounds very smarty pants. On the most specific level, Atget's canonization is the product of converging interests of curators, critics, scholars, dealers, and collectors who promoted him at the historical moment most propitious for the establishment of the new canon. Meaning that there was a spot to be filled, and at the time, the people really wanted to believe that Eugene Atget would be that person, but as the years went by, there were a lot of questioning about this claim, about this authorship for this artist who seemed like he didn't really want to be put there in the first place. So, I guess the moral of this... Wait, is there a moral? If you want to make a big deal out of something, make sure it's a big deal. Peace.